We've all heard that the climate is heating up. Carbon has been naturally circulating in the environment for millions of years. About 150 years ago, humans started burning fossil fuels, thereby extracting carbon from the earth, burning it and releasing it into the atmosphere far faster than plants, animals, and the ocean could absorb. This has resulted in the heating of our planet by 1.36 degrees Celsius. That might not sound like a lot, but it is. The climate is very sensitive to small changes in temperature, and the consequences of not addressing this are floods, possible famine, and the displacement of millions of people and animals.
Well, those are big issues that some people like to argue about. We find that a bit overdone. Instead, we want to talk about opportunities and how farmers can make money from the carbon in their soil. A global carbon market has been created in order to put a value on what economists call externalities. Excessive amounts of carbon were released into the atmosphere because no one was ever charged for the greenhouse gases that were generated from things like industry, electricity, heat production, transportation, construction, or farming. About a quarter of global greenhouse gas emissions come from the relentless and important task of feeding the world's population. This includes crops, land use, livestock, fisheries, and supply chain emissions. What isn't often talked about is how farms contribute to pulling carbon out of the atmosphere, because carbon is captured in soil and trees, things farms tend to have a lot of. The CO2 in the atmosphere enters the soil through decomposing plant matter, and there's now a way to measure the carbon in the soil on your farm and be compensated for what is in there. Here's how it works. Step 1. Increase the amount of carbon that gets captured in your soil through a variety of practices that are relevant for your farm. These can include no-till planting, cover cropping, and rotational grazing. No-till planting is what it sounds like. Plant your crop, don't till your soil. This allows the soil to keep the carbon in place. Cover cropping is when you plant a crop that you don't intend to harvest right away. The trick is there should be bare soil for as little time as possible. The cover crop keeps the carbon in place along with preventing wind and water erosion. Some examples of good cover crops include peas, oats, and rye crops. Rotational grazing is when livestock, think cows, goats, and sheep, are moved from one pasture to another in order to encourage the growth of more plant matter, especially root material, which decays and traps carbon just like cereal crops. The point of rotational grazing is also to increase productivity of plant growth. All of these practices help remove carbon dioxide from the atmosphere and store it in soil on your farm. Step 2, measure the carbon in your soil and verify the results. Step 3, third-party verifiers double-check the reported carbon in your soil. Step 4, get your carbon credits and sell them for cash. Why would anyone buy these carbon credits? Companies and individuals buy them to offset the carbon they produce. Think of a mining company whose business cannot avoid generating greenhouse gases, or an individual who wants to take a long flight but doesn't want to further contribute to warming our planet. Each offset credit is equivalent to 1 ton of carbon dioxide reduced or removed from the atmosphere.
Can the profit made from carbon farming compete with the profit I'd make from simply farming my land?
Not quite yet, but there are other reasons to do it, and we are getting there. First of all, keeping carbon in the soil contributes to the health of your soil, protecting against erosion and enhancing water conservation. Think of it as risk mitigation that you get paid to do. And this type of climate-smart farming increases land resilience and yields for a more profitable crop in the long run. This sounds like it would take a lot of time and effort. It's true, startup costs are not small, but the long-term benefits are huge. Extreme weather events are happening more frequently, and farms that measure and monitor the carbon in their soil are less likely to lose crops to these extreme events because their soil is more robust. Also, Canada has many industry and government programs that offer expertise and assistance to purchase needed technology like no-till drills or cover crops. Where do these carbon markets work? California, Australia, and Europe are all leaps and bounds ahead of Canada when it comes to monetizing carbon farming. Quebec and Alberta's carbon markets are new but growing. All of these places have proven that carbon markets can work, and now it's our turn to catch up. It takes about 24 to 36 months to turn the carbon on your farm into a tradable credit, so there's no time to start like the present. If you are a farmer who wants to know more about climate-smart farming, there are some resources you would find useful in our YouTube show notes. And like and subscribe to the Ag Podcast, where we dig deep on farm and agri-food community issues, from succession planning to new technologies and maximizing profit. We hope you appreciated our short primer on carbon markets and how to turn this big issue into your opportunity.